And we're back with Point Connect Radio. Welcome. It's been a long time since we've had somebody on the line, but we have not only Nikki Trivers, we have Nate and Nikki Trivers, Nathan and Nikki Trivers, owners of the Up and Under, the pub that has rejuvenated that whole corner for the last 11 years. How are you guys doing?
We're great. We are enjoying this weather. That's nice.
Yeah. So there's been a lot going on with you. Tell me, I didn't mention it on the show because I wanted to confirm, since I was really surprised I didn't see anything on Nextdoor. Like, you'd think that if there was a COVID incident at your restaurant that it would be all over Nextdoor. But apparently, I guess there was a COVID exposure incident a few days ago. Yep. So when did that happen? We
did. So it happened, what day was that, Nate? It happened last Friday. We got a positive COVID diagnosis for one of our employees. And swiftly, we ended up shutting down immediately. And as a requirement that we made for everyone, that we needed everyone to have a negative diagnosis to return to work.
We're 95% vaccinated.
Yep. Our staff is 90% vaccinated. But
uh-oh. Did we lose you? We may have lost you.
Weeks or this week, you know what I mean? Or how much you can contain or can expose people. So what we did is we required all of our staff to have a negative exposure to return back to work.
Right.
We luckily only had 2 employees that were positive, but which were a couple, which actually was, we assumed that other one would be positive, and no others. Which is fantastic. And so the great thing is that we had a very immediate response, shut it down, made sure that we had everything cleaned, and we're still following all the CDC guidelines and doing that stuff, as well as wanting to make sure that our staff was safe and that they weren't exposed as well. And luckily we didn't. So we are actually opening tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
That's gotta suck. I mean, you guys were shut down. You were on life support. You were doing delivery meals. Yeah. By the way, your delivery meals, so good.
Thank you.
They were so good. But that had to hurt, because I know that every single day that you're not open is just another insult to injury for your whole last year.
Yeah, but Edie, this is kind of the name of the game, and really our main concern is safety, and it's not monetary over safety, that's for sure. And so the bottom line is that our main concern, as always, has been our staff, has been our customers, and that, the last thing we need to do is have a massive exposure in Point Richmond, and being one of the busier locations, we just felt a really big responsibility for making sure that everything was contained and taken care of. And I'm actually very proud of what we've put in place. I'm proud of the systems that we're putting in place. After this exposure, we've decided to limit the indoor seating and take reservation only. Even though the rest of the county is opening up, we are going to take it at our own pace, and really just kind of keep it going for the safety of our employees and customers.
Right.
We are going back into the outdoor area, which is fantastic. We've got those great spaces. And that's really kind of where our focus has been, is just really the safety and minimizing the exposure.
Do you know if any customers had been exposed, and was there any contact tracing after that?
I'm not sure about the contact tracing, but we have not heard of anybody.
We did communicate with the customers that were at the pub on the day we got the testing,
mm-hmm.
and we contacted as much customers as we could without, we don't know every contact, but we communicated with customers as they were tuned into our Facebook post, and we didn't post on Nextdoor. I don't know if that's bad or good, but as you know, Nextdoor starts with one post and ends with a different conversation, and we didn't want to just have a
right.
We didn't want to have
it would have been a free for
all negativity that sometimes the Nextdoor goes south. They like to go south before they even think about going positive.
Right, exactly. Well, the whole point was to get the information out there, and Nextdoor is a way, but it's not necessarily the best way. So I'm assuming that the The Contra Costa Health Department was notified, and everybody was all on board, and everybody's
as what's actually quite impressive of this whole thing is the response that the CDC and the health, and I mean, we get phone calls. We got tested. We talked COVID California calling, and it's quite amazing that they're actually doing a really, really good job of when this happens, because we're not the only restaurant for this to happen to, and the procedures that they and the protocol that they have together is quite impressive, and it's good to see a system working.
Right. Yeah. So what day was this? Just in case there is someone out there that might be listening or hearing this after the fact that would want to know what day that this occurred, and what day that if they were in the restaurant that they might want to get themselves tested.
Well, Friday the 7th was the positive test.
Okay.
So any customers that, let's just say, were through that week of the incubation period the week before in that time.
So that was like from a week earlier than that would have been like from April 30th through the 7th.
Yes. And so is that a lot of days and a lot of exposure to the place that's popular?
Yeah.
Yes.
But that's the nature of it, is it's going to be.
The craziest thing, Edie, is when you try, it's always like, oh, God, I got the flu from little Jimmy, because little Jimmy's at school and he came home and he got it. So you play this whole game of where.
Uh-oh. Lost you. Are you going to come back this time?
Unless it's very a direct and a positive thing that you were with this person or not during this time. So that's been our sleepless nights of like, oh, Jesus, where did it come from? Who could it be? Well, these customers, we have a lot of regulars. No regulars are sick because our regulars, they talk to us. A lot of them are vaccinated, especially the older clientele that are the more responsible clientele, and we're not really too much of a little teeny bopper place.
Right.
And especially regarding Point Richmond regulars. These are people that have been customers of ours for the last 11 years, and they love us. They're our second family, and they're the first one to tell us your burger sucked, and I was there in this, and your employee wasn't nice to me, or, whatever happens in the wonderful restaurant business. They communicate. So we're lucky enough to at least have customers communicating with us and telling us they're fine, they're okay. Random customers,
there's no way for you to know. So that's why it's good to know. So if you were at Up and Under anytime between, say, about April 30th through May 7th, and you're feeling sick, or even if you're not, if you just want to have peace of mind, get yourself tested to make sure that you were not exposed and that you're not positive. So, obviously, that's the biggest thing. That took precedence over an existing kind of I guess it's a controversy within the neighborhood, is your parklet. Wow, has there been a lot of opinions? So tell me about this parklet, and tell me about the myths, the rumors, and what are the actual facts about the parklet?
I think it's fantastic.
Of course you would.
Parklet. Well, of course.
Well, what are the details? If nobody's heard about the parklet, let's talk about what the parklet is.
I'm going to let Nate talk a little bit more about the process, but what I will say is that, there has been an issue about the height of it and the size of it. We were required to make it a certain height off of the ground. Mm-hmm. It had to be at least 6 inches off the ground. Sadly, the city of Richmond streets are not exactly even. So part of it is higher than 6 inches, but to make it even, it had to be. And I know that I've heard that so many times. It's so massive. It's huge. It's so far off the ground. It's like, hey, we had to make it level, and
Edie, as you know, we are the lowest point of Point Richmond.
Right.
Everything
runs downhill
to our corner. And our corner has a massive drain, a rain drain, or whatever you want to call it. So everything comes there. So that was the biggest thing. And then the reality is going, listen, folks, we can't, the street was at such an angle. You're not going to build a parklet. Now, backtracking the parklet, why is it built like it's built? I requested that I want to build something that is there to stay and it's nice. I did not like the fact of having my wonderful customers sit on the street and eat food.
Right.
I know a lot of parklets. And in all the surrounding cities or in the city streets, but our situation of rain, obviously there's not going to be hopefully there's a lot of rain, but you can't build something that's going to clog and cause flooding and more problems bigger than people's like or dislike of the structure.
Right. So it's elevated simply, like you said, because you wanted to have enough, be able to make it level since it was unlevel ground. But I didn't know that there was a storm drain right there.
Yeah, we every year, the first rain, I would be out in the middle of the street with a squeegee pulling the leaves out so the water could hopefully go down. But at the same time, what I was really doing is slowing traffic, because the traffic would hit the water and it'd be a tidal wave coming into the up and under, which indirectly would be flooding the Raymond's Pizzeria next door, which indirectly, if the water's not moving, the taqueria is going down, and if it's really bad, the water's going across the street. And if anybody has lived in Point Richmond long enough to know, we are the flood corner.
Right. Yeah, your corner and the corner of getting onto the freeway. Those are the two
Correct.
big flood corners. And that is actually lower than you.
Correct. So that's an issue, and that's why the structure is 6 inches on, I don't know if that's north or east, in front of Mom Pop Art. And then at the end on the corner, I think it's at like 22 or 23. That's how steep the grade is from the city street. And imagine if we kept a 6-inch gap there, how much clogging would happen.
Right.
And quite frankly, you're not going to build a structure that's at a 45-degree angle for people to sit and walk, and then you have safety issues and all the other things.
Right. Karen Buchanan in the chat room says Railroad Avenue was right on the marsh back in the day. One could sail a boat all the way through at high tide until Jacob Tewksbury built the dikes and the sediment built up land. There you go.
Yeah, that's the history. I mean, we were an island at one point, and so we built to the conform of the engineering department of the city of Richmond to ensure the flow of wastewater and the safety of customers.
Right. So it went through the full parklet process through the city of Richmond, right?
Yeah, Edie, I presented a parklet to the city of Richmond 3 years previously.
Oh, really? So this was 3 years in the making. It just happened to happen during COVID.
No, I wanted to do it because I was a little forward thinking, and I thought, parklet's a new groovy thing. They're happening, and they were happening. The parklet was happening before COVID, on the sense of, hey, look what we can do, and some cities adopted it.
Right.
So I approached it 3 years ago, and the reason why it did not go through is because at that time, the city of Richmond were only going to allow parklets. They had to be built and insured by the business owner, but they were only allowed for the public.
As opposed to, you mean as a public park, like as opposed to something attached to a business?
Hey, I just built a public park so every Yahoo and anybody could sit there and do whatever the heck they want and whatever. And I just built that for the city. And I'm like, well, I'm going to pay for it. I'm going to insure it. I'm going to build the requirements, but I can't use it as my business.
Right.
So I said, well, that's not going to happen. And I said, I hope you guys relook at your language, because no small business is going to build a spot for the public to do whatever the hell they want and can't use it for their business.
Right. So what changed with the city?
COVID
changed it?
COVID. And I reapproached it. I said, hey, geez, COVID's crazy. We can't open. Businesses are dying. Look how many restaurants went out of business in Point Richmond. What can we do? Let's revisit. So they revisited. They changed the language. And then we went through the process that they told us to go through, and it took about a year.
So I'm assuming that that's what triggered Kaleidoscope wanting to have a similar parklet there, because of that different language that was kind of spearheaded by you.
Yeah, for better or worse, I was the guinea pig. And for better or worse, I presented what I wanted. Mm-hmm. If the city, if they told me no, I said, I'm not going to spend money on I want something permanent. That's what I want. That's, as a business owner, I wanted something to be permanent. I'm not going to spend money, a large chunk of money, to take something down in X amount. And quite frankly, we with the city, 2 parking spots isn't going to disrupt Point Richmond parking, because Point Richmond parking is a interesting thing, because there's probably about 12 parking spots that have been taken up by abandoned cars or people living in them. You just go down Railroad. There's 6 of them there daily that are being abused by X, Y, and Z. I'm at least building business and tax dollars, and it's something that is good. What we thought, we do think, is good for the community.
Right. So if you do you have any other plans, or are you aware of any other plans of parklets? Like, I know that you're really well connected with Raymond's next door and Maya Taqueria. Are they anticipating doing anything else, or have you heard from anyone else that might be approaching you for advice on how to get this process done?
Well, I'm not. This is Nikki. Hi. I'm not sure what their plans are for the parklet process, but just to clarify, also, we originally had planned for the parklet to be on the railroad side of our business. That was always the plan. Our original designs were always to be right in front of our existing patio already, and it would be on the railroad side. We were, by the city of the engineering department, were asked to move that location to where it is now. Because of PG&E, because there's the power lines there, there's the poles there. So I'm not sure. They might be, if they're trying to do that, they might be coming into the same issues. Maybe it can go further down the street. I don't know about that part of it, but there was also a lot of talk about the location of it, and that was the location that was picked actually by the city. Mm-hmm. So that was kind of out of our control. That was not our first choice, but it's where it is what it is at this point. But they might be going to the same parameters and difficulties with the PG&E lines right there. So it's hard to say what their plans are.
I noticed that because of the size of it, it does kind of narrow the road in that area. Have there been any issues with traffic?
I think it's a real visual thing, Edie. I mean, the parking, there's a couple issues here. The parking spaces that were marked are not all the same. Okay? We were allocated 6 feet out by 40 feet long. A parking spot, each parking spot should be 20 feet. Mm-hmm. You could walk down there right now and notice from that corner up West Richmond, the markings aren't correct. Okay, and that's not my job. So one marking is this, another marking is that. So that's why you see this 2.5 spaces taken. It's because the city where they marked screwed up.
Got it. So that they'd actually marked the spaces smaller than what was legally considered a parking place.
So we took the space that was allocated, 6 feet by 40. Mm-hmm. Now that corner is a nightmare. Okay? Parklet or not. That corner is an engineering nightmare for anybody who lives in town. They know. And I spoke extensively over and over with engineering where a stop sign should be put in, because even when I was out there with the engineering, there was road rage. Someone coming up Railroad, you can't see around the corner, because if you stop at the parking line, you cannot see around due to the building.
Right.
So they sneak out, and then somebody's flying faster than they should have, and there's honk, honk, and F you, and blah, blah, blah. It happens twice a day, every day.
Mm-hmm. Even before the parklet was there.
Oh,
that I knew. I mean, trying to take a left or a right turn off of Railroad was always kind of like, this is a bit dicey. You kind of got to just do it in small stages, because you can't just move forward without thinking about it.
Correct.
And to go also back to the point that it's a visual aspect of it, because the parklet's no wider than an automobile, right? So it's the same as if there was a car parked there. And it's honestly, it's no wider than that. And so you have this, it's a visual thing, obviously, for people. And they get perplexed by it. But it honestly is no larger than a car.
Yeah.
You have a van or something that's obstructive parking on that first spot, Edie. You are basically in the middle of West Richmond Avenue, looking around the corner due to the obstruction of view. So that corner is a nightmare, and that's the other reason I wanted to build something strong and safe. I don't want to put you and your family sitting on the freaking street at a 45-degree angle eating fish and chips that could get plowed over because someone's not paying attention.
That's true. That is absolutely true. Definitely there's no missing that parklet. And there's even if I think that thing is built so strong, even if a car hit it, I don't know that it'd probably do more damage to the car.
I hope.
And we were also required to put up the barriers. We also have the rail guard up there now, and there were also the planters. And so there is a deterrent, and those were all requirements by the city of Richmond. And actually, I'm sorry, yes, my husband is telling me that was all requirements. He put that stuff in.
I presented that to the city, said, listen, I've been on this corner for 11 years. I've seen every Tom, Dick, and Harry, whether you're a good driver or not, drive around that thing, and that corner is sketchy. It's scary for the old lady walking across the street or some of the dogs, because if people aren't paying attention, someone's going to get hurt. So I told him, I said, I would like to be able to put some barriers or planter boxes, so if someone taking a right and is being a jerk, if they're going to hit something, I want them to hit something heavy, and the car and the planter box take the abuse, and hopefully nobody gets hurt.
Right, exactly. Well, if there was anything that you wanted to convey to the city, to the neighborhood of Point Richmond, what would you want to convey?
Oh, I mean, you know what? This honestly, we have so much love for this space, and we've obviously been fielding lots of, there's been a significant amount more positive feedback from all these things than there has negative. That's just say that first and foremost. I would also say that, the thing is, all we're trying to do is build a space that people enjoy and want to be at, and I think we've done that. And I think we've done that by our community involvement, our community development. We've done that by our business. We've done that by the fact that, I don't know if people know this, but we have most of our employees have been with us for 9 or more years. And that, I think, is something to be said for not only the community, but also our business. And the fact that we have these people that are tried and true, and they've become community staples, and it's this great environment. I mean, that's really what we've just tried to build this entire time, is this neighborhood, great space for everyone to come and be, and have it be a community environment.
A real pub.
Yeah.
It's a true pub.
It's definitely a true pub. All right. Well, if anybody has questions about the parklet, has questions about the COVID exposure, has questions about your restaurant, where can they contact you? Our
email is contact@theupandunder.com. We are heavily involved on social media. We are heavily involved on communicating with people. the thing is, I would really ask is that, there are lots of different rumors and things being dispelled around about both the COVID and about the parklet. I honestly, please, guys, ask us questions. We are an open book. It is not something that was nefarious. It was not something that was done in the dark of the night. Like, none of these things were. And I don't think people understand that this was a year-long process that we went through. And then I know that people are upset about people not going through the neighborhood council. It was never required by the city for us to do that. And I think that a lot of that was during the COVID time. It is an awkward situation and awkward timing. And I do feel sad about the fact that the community didn't get to put their input in there. It was just never a requirement by the city for us. And all we wanted to do was put this forward, and we wanted to try to thrive our business and survive. And that was really it. And luckily it's been able to help us do that. And because, the bottom line is that nobody wants to see an empty corner. Quite frankly, there's so many businesses shutting down at this point that if we were not there, it would be a ghost town. And I think that or not necessarily a ghost town, but it would not be as thriving as it is. And I mean, I'm proud of what we've done. I'm proud of our containment for the COVID. I'm proud of our work with the parklet. And I think that we're trying to be the most outstanding community members that we can.
Well, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you dispelling a lot of rumors, kind of laying out the facts of what happened and explaining, especially to people who are not aware of the controversy, because we don't have just Point Richmond people that listen who are aware of the controversy of the parklet and also the information about the COVID exposure. Remember, if you were at the Up and Under at any time between, especially dining indoors, between April 30th and May 7th, you may want to go get yourself tested to make sure, because there was that an employee that did test positive, or two employees that did test positive. But they're back open, and everybody's been quarantined. Everybody's been cleared as far as the health is concerned, and they are open again. And what is the address at Up and Under?
We are at 2 West Richmond Avenue, on the corner of Railroad and West Richmond.
And your website?
Is theupandunder.com.
Thank you, Nikki. Thank you, Nate. We will talk to you later.
Thanks, Edie.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. So we will continue with music, and then we will be back with our COVID numbers, our COVID statistics, so that you can stay apprised, because my day is not complete unless I tell you where we're at with the rest of the county on COVID. So we'll be back in a minute, but this is Stevie Wonder.